More than once, I've found myself lying in bed at 2 a.m., replaying the night in my head. The last time this happened, I'd been at a friend's bonfire earlier that evening. There were some people there that I knew and a few that I didn't. I had told a joke about a family trip faux pas that I thought was funny, and there was about this half second where nobody laughed. There was just silence. And then somebody changed the subject. That half second of nothing was the whole incident I was chewing on over and over in my head. At 2 a.m., I had turned that half second into a full documentary. I could see the exact expression on the person across from me's face. I could feel the temperature of the cup of water in my hand. I was replaying the silence on a loop, and every time I ran it back, the cringe felt deeper. The pause got longer. My gut was absolutely certain. That was a terrible joke. They all think I'm super weird now, and none of them want to be my friend. I was already writing the verdict. I shouldn't have gone, because I'm bad at this. It felt like I had just confirmed what I always suspected about myself, about not fitting in with the people I wanted to belong with. Those are some really mean things, and those mean things I let my worries say to me aren't true. It is hard to think rationally when you're still stressed from something. My mind was running a post-game analysis while my body was still in the game. Every time I hit replay, I was locking into a version of events that had almost nothing to do with what actually happened. Hello, my name is Kara. I'm a first-time podcaster and a longtime friend, and this is Fluent in Friendship. When I get stuck in rumination, this looping of worrying thoughts, especially in the first 24 hours after something happens, I am not analyzing it clearly or collecting clean data. I am contaminating the evidence I will need later. A lot of confidence advice tells you to do the obvious thing. Think about the situation rationally. Challenge the thought. Ask whether it's really true. Well, all of that sounds great in theory. In practice, that advice is close to useless when your whole body is vibrating with the certainty that you humiliated yourself. It is like being told to read a map while the table is shaking. After a stressful event, your nervous system does not switch off the moment the event ends. Memory is also less fixed than people think. When you bring a memory back up, you are not opening a sealed file. You're bringing it back in a state that can be updated before it is stored again. So when you lie in bed at 2 a.m, replaying a conversation while you are still flooded with stress, you are not getting a neutral review. You're revisiting it in a stressed state, and that state can shape what feels most important the next time you remember it. That is how a normal pause starts to feel like a failure. A mediocre joke can start to feel humiliating. A flat response starts to look like proof that you don't belong. By the next time you replay the event, you are often reacting to the stressed version, not just the original moment, and the 2 a.m. version is almost always worse. Part of the problem is also simpler than that. People reliably overestimate how much other people notice their mistakes and awkward moments. Psychologists call that the spotlight effect. The pause that felt endless to you may have looked ordinary to someone else. The thing that you said that now feels glaring may not have landed that way or stayed in anyone else's mind at all. Rumination also likes to masquerade as analysis. It sounds productive because it takes on the form of questions. But most of those questions are the same loop wearing different clothes. Why did they say that? What did they mean? Why would they do that? What does it say about me? You cannot reason your way out of that loop by answering those questions because each answer gives the loop new material. Ask why they said that, and your mind can always come up with another theory. Maybe they think that you were weird. Now you have a new sentence to react to, which turns into the next question. Do they actually think I'm weird? That is how the loop keeps feeding itself. What helps is a different kind of question than an interpretation question. Evidence questions are helpful here. I will get to those in a minute. And your thoughts will push back on you when you try this for the first time. They'll say, this time was different. I really did mess up. I can feel how bad it was. That feeling is real, but the strength of the feeling is not proof that the judgment is accurate. So the skill here is not forcing yourself to calm down on command. It is waiting to evaluate the event until the stress comes down, and then checking it against the evidence. The 24-hour rule is simple. Don't decide how the event went until tomorrow. Your body may still be carrying the stress of the moment, and stress can make your thinking feel certain before it is actually clear. Give your system time to settle. Then come back and evaluate what happened when you can weigh the evidence more cleanly. Now, I know some of you will be sassy and say, Kara, 2 a.m. is technically tomorrow. And to be fair, you're right. But you and I both know that tomorrow really means meaningful time between the stressful event and you. Until the 24 hours have passed, your job is not to solve this. Your job is just to interrupt the replay loop. When your body is in full stress, heart pounding, breathing hard, thoughts racing, start with something physical. Splash cold water on your face, walk to another room, go to the bathroom if you need privacy, and text someone safe. Then, when you can feel a little bit normal, come back to the interrupt phrase. Here's the interrupt phrase. This is a stressful thought. I do not have to follow it right now. Say it in your head or out loud when the replay starts. You don't have to believe it or stop the feelings you are feeling. What you're doing is reminding yourself that you do not have to engage with it at this moment. Sometimes the body needs somewhere for the stress to go. Physical interruption can help, like we talked about a minute ago. So can writing everything down, then closing the notebook and letting the paper hold the memory for you. I started keeping a notebook on my nightstand for exactly this reason. More than once, I'd read what I wrote the next morning and think, really? That's what had me staring at the ceiling for an hour? Here's a distinction that I want to call out. When I have this happen, I'm not trying to stop how I feel. I'm just trying to stop following the feelings into a loop. The second part of this skill is that after 24 hours have passed, run the evidence checklist. This checklist has one goal: to help you understand what actually happened separate from how you feel about the event. Here are the evidence checklist questions. Did the conversation flow, even with some bumps? Did anything concrete actually happen that you'd want to undo? Did they ask you questions, or did they just answer yours? Has this person done anything since the event that suggests they're upset with you? If a friend told you about this exact interaction, would you call it a disaster? And would you want to see this person again? I felt awkward doesn't mean that they noticed. I said something dumb doesn't mean that they cared. That pause was terrible doesn't mean they registered it as anything other than a pause. When I ran this checklist against the bonfire night, the answers landed in the opposite direction of my stress. The conversation had flowed fine. The topic just changed. Nothing concrete had happened that I'd want to undo. Nobody had gone quiet on me. In fact, another person from that night actually texted me the next day about something completely unrelated. And when I asked myself the friend question, if someone told me that they'd told a story that didn't land at a bonfire with people, some that they barely knew, would I call that a disaster? The answer was obviously no. I would tell them that it was a Friday night. Even though the evidence said normal evening, my gut had said it was a catastrophe. And that gap is the whole reason that I'm teaching this skill. After your next social interaction of any kind, work call, a text exchange, a casual chat, notice how you're feeling about the event. Then don't revisit it until 24 hours has passed. The next day, go through the evidence checklist. Compare your gut feeling with the evidence. Look for the pattern and collect data on how much your stress may have distorted things. Look for the gap. When it doesn't work, if the interrupt phrase doesn't stop the replay, try writing everything down you remember from the event, all of it. It can be helpful to get the spiral out of your head and onto paper. Then close the notebook and don't look until tomorrow. The act of writing often can break the loop on its own. Do you still feel terrible after 24 hours? The feeling might just take longer to fade. Run the evidence checklist anyway. What you felt and what happened are still different questions, and the checklist works even when the feeling hasn't fully cleared. If you keep running the checklist over and over, and you're pulling it back out to run it again on the same event, I would encourage you to stop doing that. You have now turned the tool into a loop. The checklist is meant to be run once, read once, and then put away. If you can't put it down, then that is a pattern. The needing to check over and over might be worth bringing to a therapist. If the evidence is ambiguous, some interactions are genuinely hard to read. If the evidence is mixed, call it neutral and don't jump to the worst conclusions. You'll get more data from future interactions with the same person or people. If after 24 hours you still think it was bad and the evidence confirms it, then maybe the interaction was bad. Maybe it was awkward. That happens. One awkward conversation isn't a verdict on you. It is simply a learning opportunity, and you can let yourself move forward from that one event. If that evidence says that something actually went wrong, then there are ways to address that, but that's a different skill in and of itself, and we'll get to it in Tier 7. If the stress and judgment starts before the event happens, for example, if your mind is going blank or you feel shut down in the moment, that can be a stress problem rather than a replay problem. I encourage you to check out Tier 0, Episode 1, My Brain Goes Blank at Social Events, the reset breath. If you're running the evidence checklist and realizing that the real issue is that you can't tell whether someone was actually interested in friendship, check out Tier 3, Episode 2. Are they being friendly or do they actually want to be friends? The escalation test. And if the spirals are constant and nothing here touches them, a therapist who works with anxiety or OCD spectrum patterns can help you build a stronger foundation under these skills. You don't have to solve anything at 2 a.m. Today's full skill flows like this. Notice a spiral, interrupt, wait, and then evaluate. Evaluate the evidence tomorrow. For tonight, let the loop spin without you. Your notebook's on the nightstand if you need it.